Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm pleased to tell you that today on Brownsville Matters, we have with us Cande Aguilar, who is a well-known artist here in Texas and in the region. And he has an interesting story because he started out in music and made a transition to the visual arts. Cande, welcome.
Glad to have you. Thank you so much. I appreciate the invitation to be on the show.
That's an interesting part of your history, moving from music to painting and murals, etc. How did that happen?
Well, if it's a bottom line story, the band broke up, and so I kind of was left, left with two hands, ready to.
But a lot of people, when the band breaks up, they go create a new band or become a solo artist.
Yeah,
but you made this grand leap.
Yeah, and I had that opportunity to do that, with my buddies in the band, which I love dearly, and they invited, they had
and you were in the Tejano business,
yeah, Tejano
right? business,
yeah. They had been inviting me to join, another band that they were making, but I mean, understanding that I had started since I was 12 years old on the road and with my dad and my padrinos conjunto, Gilberto Perez.
Where all did you go?
I'm sorry?
Where all did you play when you were with your dad?
Yeah, we played mostly here in Texas. Mostly here in Texas. They had their time in the late 60s and throughout the 70s. That's when their conjunto was like really, traveling a lot. But by the time I was, came around, I was about 13 years old. It had already slowed down for them to be only here in Texas, touring here in Texas and stuff. So, Laredo, San Antonio, Dallas, all the.
Where does Tejano have its roots?
Actually, here in our area.
Yeah, but I mean musically.
Musically. So, the Tejano, it really comes from conjunto. So conjunto music is the accordion, the bajo sexto, the bass, and the drums kit. And conjunto started back in the mid-30s with Narciso Martinez, which is the father of conjunto music. And so Narciso Martinez was from here, he was born in Mexico, but he lived all throughout his life here in the San Benito area, Brownsville area. And so, then it, conjunto evolved to Tejano, which was like Grupo Más, and then, Grupo La Mafia, Little Joe, La Familia, all those bands. And then, I guess you could say that, my band, Eli de Avante was maybe, I don't know, I could say the third or fourth generation, which was, begun in the early 90s. And we had a good 9-year run. And so it was great.
Would you say that Freddie Fender had his roots in Tejano a little bit?
I don't know. I haven't, researched back, with Mr. Freddie Fender. But
I mean, if you listen to his music, do you hear some elements of Tejano influence in that?
Well, honestly, I think I hear more of a country.
More of a country
kind? More of a country flavor. Tejano would
I was just curious because he's from San Benito, and I thought, well, maybe he was influenced by Tejano.
Yeah, and actually,
no doubt around it.
Yeah, and actually, my padrino Gilberto Perez, he actually knew Freddie Fender, and and he attended his funeral as well when he passed, and back in his time. And I mean, I'm sure he was in tune with conjunto music, and but I mean, I guess Freddie Fender's style, of course, was country. He went into more of the country genre, and so.
When your band dissolved and you did not go to another band and didn't become a solo artist, you became a visual artist, and that's a very unusual leap. I assume you were doing some painting before you made this leap.
It's funny because literally like 8 months before our band broke up, I started sketching and doing pastels. And so, I don't know.
But had you been a sketcher when you were in second grade?
Well,
did you have
some? Yeah, the first, I can honestly say that it's probably, aside from my mom and my dad's presence, right, and my family's presence, but one of my first memories is actually, seeing my uncles draw on their notebook papers from school. And I mean, I must have been maybe either 3 or 4 years old, because I know that at that time we were living at my grandmother's house on Sandia street over here on Southmost, and so I remember that clearly. I remember them drawing lowrider cars and stuff like that on their notebook paper, and I thought, man, that kind of just really blew me away. It was like, wow, I had no idea that at that age, right? I mean, that somebody could actually draw something and make something look kind of like something, right, on paper. And so I guess that really stayed with me, because that's again something that I always remember.
And I think for a lot of us, I'm more of a writer. Well, I'm absolutely more of a writer. I have no gift in the visual arts other than can take pretty good photographs.
Sure.
But I remember the first time I read writers who wrote about Texas. And I thought, can you do that? Can that be legitimate? And,
right.
And so I would imagine the same thing with the visual arts. Can you draw a lowrider car and that's art?
Yeah. In that aspect, but for me, just the act of it, was like the shocking part, right? I mean, he could have been drawing whatever, right?
Yeah, but the act that they could achieve that on paper.
Exactly. Yeah, that was like mind blowing for me at that moment. But I didn't think of any, pretty much anything of it because I guess my mindset was with music, right? I mean, following my dad's footsteps, right? I mean, and it was natural because he used to take me along, and there was always music around, and and I mean, I find myself playing now. I play music, and I find myself playing sort of these riffs that my padrino used to play on the accordion and this other bands. And so, that, for me, that's just like sort of like a confirmation that artistically I'm working from a subconscious, a sort of perspective, right? Or from a subconscious area, because, again, these things, must have been, when my dad was playing the albums at home or something, because how styles change, right? My padrino didn't usually, really play, the same licks all the time, right? I mean, it was always like an improvisation, among, the stuff that was recorded, right? And so, that's interesting to me, and I can attest to that with my visual art, because I know that some of the things that I come up with, or that come out of my, sort of the creative realm, or whatever you want to call it, they are things that are from, I guess it's deep-seated memory, subconscious, and so I've learned, so now I'm going into the visual arts, right? But I've learned how to harness that and sort of just go with it. I've always thought,
let the force be with you.
Yeah, in a sense, right? Yeah. I mean, I've always thought, I've always known that, I work from my gut, that everything sort of comes from that area, right? Because I'm a self-taught artist, right? I didn't go to school for it. I again, as soon as our band broke up, I was kind of already sketching, and by the time I knew
whose work influenced you artistically, visually?
Well, for me, it was definitely Picasso. It was definitely Picasso, and then I discovered Vincent van Gogh.
Oh.
And then, of course, all the impressionists, and then it goes down a rabbit hole, right? And
but how did you get books and just look at their art, just kind of study it, and
pretty much,
admire it and love it?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I kind of just got into every single page of the art books, and just kind of tried to sort of, in a sense, I don't know if it was catching up. Maybe that's what was going on, subconsciously, where I was kind of just going through everything and everybody, and it's endless, man. I mean, it's a huge world, the art world, man. It's just I feel like a little speck, compared to the size of the art world, right? And so, but definitely Picasso. I think Picasso is an artist that I admire a lot because of his style changes, the way he went through the different periods in his career.
I saw his work in the Del Prado in Madrid.
Oh, cool, man!
Some years ago.
Awesome.
And I would just happen to be there on the week that they had a big exhibit for him.
And this was recently? Was this recently?
No. This is 15 years ago.
Oh, okay.
But they they always have some of his work there,
Yeah.
but they had 15 pieces.
Wow.
And I was surprised at how big some of them were.
Yeah, yeah.
Some were, 2 by
Right.
3 feet, but some of these were 10 by 12. They were enormous.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I was very impressed with that. And so you got inspired by him by what you saw in books and such?
I mean, as far as, the word inspired is a tricky word, I think, because I think that maybe the inspiration was already there as far as being creative, right?
Right.
But when it came to maybe the cues of visual art, I guess you do have to, at some point, get familiar with the history of it, right? And so Picasso really stands out, and for me also Da Vinci.
So you're already inspired, but you liked his style.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess you could say that. I like the fact that he was very versatile, in his work. He didn't stick to just one, like these panels, these sound panels.
Right.
It's like, you'll walk into a gallery and see a painting that's just sort of over and over, right? Which is, it's also part of the practice, right? And the artist at that point, he's doing something where he's moving on to something, right? But for me.
What was his famous saying that to be an artist you must always remain a child or something?
Yes,
like that?
yeah.
The secret is to remain a child.
Right. Yeah. He sort of went in reverse, right? Because when he started off, he painted these marvelous sort of Renaissance looking paintings, and so then his struggle was to go in reverse, to paint like a child, right? Or in a sense, right? That freedom, that sense of freedom, right? And so
I didn't know this. So he became an abstract artist later in life?
Yeah, of course, him and Brock invented the Cubist, style, and that was pretty abstract, you could say, right? They really broke it down, and so yeah, you could say he went from sort of this figurative, realistic painter to an abstract painter.
So what do you call your art?
So my art is I have two bodies of work, which is one of them is pretty much abstraction, right? And it's it's the practice of going through a composition and bringing out something that is visually. You can say pleasing or visually interesting, sort of like it might be like this kind of equation that you see, right? That you kind of, if the artist gets it right, it might be a work of art that has no object in it, but somehow when you see it, it does fit in your eye, and it does convey some kind of emotion or anything, right? It could be anything, a memory in your mind, or and then I have this other body of work which I call BarrioPop, which is more of a cultural sort of attached work where I sort of and it has more figurative imagery in it, and it's it's based out of sort of the imagery that we grew up with in the barrio, or and it pretty much it could be in anybody's barrio, right? Everybody has for example, I have this, piece of it's an assemblage piece, and it has a rooster on top. And so that piece, I feel like it anybody from any culture could relate to it, right? Because you go into any barrio and you'll hear a rooster.
The rooster.
Yeah. And so, there's certain things that sort of, do, have this broader.
Have you done the pitada?
The pitada salmos?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I've been to that.
Oh, as far as an art piece, I have it. I have no, but I've been to one of a few of them.
I went a couple of times this year because I went with a friend who was sent from a magazine up in Austin who wanted pictures of the pitada.
Yeah,
they'd never heard of it before.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And hadn't been in a few years, and I thought, wow, what a wonderful cultural festival this is.
Right, yeah.
Because people come with their dogs in cowboy outfits in the lowrider car.
Yeah, also, yeah, right.
It's such a fusion of things.
Exactly,
it's so beautiful.
Yeah. It's
you should do something with that.
That's a good concept, because it does, bring a lot of people together, and there's something there, right? Definitely.
It's kind of beautiful, really.
Yeah, and it is. And my grandmother, she used to live maybe, I guess it's maybe like 4 blocks from there. Sandia Street is real close to that area where they do the pita.
I would imagine if you live there, it could get a bit annoying.
Especially
if the Cowboys win a lot.
Yeah, and she, I think there was, I think you could hear it from her house. Of course,
no doubt,
no
doubt.
doubt.
There's a lot of blasting of horns.
Yeah.
People bring those fog horns and go crazy.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have to check it out next year.
And trumpets. Some people bring a trumpet and just any noisemaker. So it's a great deal of fun.
Yeah.
And motorcycles and but nobody. There's not much fast driving. People are going like 15 miles an hour.
Yeah, which is good, right?
Just a parade.
Yeah, they behave in that sense. Yeah, I mean, you get into the faster speeds,
But your childhood in Southmost, no doubt, has influenced what you're calling the BarrioPop.
Sure, of course, yeah, and and as you say, proof is in the pudding, right? Because when I started the BarrioPop series, it pretty much came.
It's a great name.
Yeah.
And your paintings are in Houston and galleries.
Yes,
in Dallas, etc. Right?
Yeah, I do have a couple of galleries that show my work, and I do. Right now the current big deal in my art career, you could say, right, is that recently the comedian and actor Chich Marin. He is a big Chicano art collector, and so he acquired a couple of my pieces. And
how wonderful!
And
that puts you on the map.
Yeah, it really does. It's really helped a lot as far as becoming a little bit known broad in a broader way, right?
When people are interested in your art like that, do they go through the gallery or do they contact you directly somehow? So
the first acquisition he made was through the gallery, Gray Duck Gallery in Austin, Texas, where I was showing at that time, his art manager, Miss Melissa Richardson Banks, she is sort of this person that is sort of kind of scouts, and is aware of more or less what's going on in the galleries and stuff like that. And so I had already met Cheech, maybe, I don't know what it was, a few years back from then. And so I handed him my sort of this catalog or little book, that had my work in it. And so he was already aware of it, right, with that meeting that I, we had as far as just meeting each other. And so the piece he bought was from the gallery.
Okay. And did he go there and look at that, or is it just something that his art manager, so to speak, looked at and said, you're going to want this piece?
Yeah, well, I think that she showed him the link to the show, because I believe he didn't go to the gallery. He wasn't at the gallery. The show was here in Texas, and he's in California. So it didn't happen like that, this time around. But he saw the image, digital image, and he liked it.
What was it?
It's a painting of it's titled El Verde, which has a wrestler in it, but the wrestler
a green wrestler?
Yeah, a green wrestler. Yeah, and it's actually the action figure. It's not really the wrestler, right? It's the classic, the pose of the little action figures that they sell, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, I was never really into wrestling. I was more into playing with the toys. And so that that piece in itself, the wrestler itself, it is a sort of this BarrioPop icon, right? I mean, you could say it is these little characters that a lot of kids in the barrios have, right? And so again, that's an example of what could be in my work, right? And so going back a little bit. again with the BarrioPop concept is that when I was growing up, as we know here in Brownsville, there was no gallery. There's still maybe a gallery here and there, briefly, right? That, it's very hard to maintain and to have a gallery here in Brownsville, and so we didn't have a museum either. And so, when I was growing up, again, coming from the subconscious, apparently I was absorbing, all these hand painted signs, all these handmade signs, mom and pop signs, right? And so fast forward, 30, 40 years now, you see all these fonts, all these hand sort of written letters in my work, right? And so, it does have this conversation with the sort of the sign painters, right? The hand painted signs, and so combine that with sort of art history, iconography, right? Or even current, things that might be going on that sort of compel me, and it's not something that I choose to do. When I'm working,
it chooses you.
Yeah, it chooses me, exactly. Because when I'm working, something comes out, right? It comes out, and sometimes it's something that it's either been in my mind for a while, or surprisingly sometimes it's right away. Maybe something I saw in the news that was like, wow, this is heavy stuff, right? And it ends up coming out in the maybe the third painting from there, right? Or I'm working on something and it comes out in that painting, and that in the painting that I'm actually currently working on, right? So, it's very rare that I start off by thinking of something and then seeing it through. It does happen, I do have sort of. And the word idea is a word that I'm sort of struggling with now, because, I know that ideas at some point will run dry. So I think that, again, I know, and I keep going back to the subconscious, sort of concept of the work, because I think I'm working more with moments and more with how the air feels that day, other than ideas, right? Because I think that at some point, that's why it's always interesting when somebody says, well, I have a block, man, I can't work, and so that's always stayed in my mind, right? When I hear that, and I've always thought, hey, why do they say that, right? Because I never felt I had a block, right? I never felt like if I stop working, it's because I chose to, right? And because I'm doing something else, or I'm doing something that coincides with the work, and it's gonna eventually come out in the work, right? But so I came to
have the opposite. You may have a tyranny of options. You have too many ideas. You can't pursue them all.
I came to the conclusion that I'm not working with ideas. I'm working more with the moments, and so I like that path, because it'll just keep giving you, man. It'll just keep going.
Epiphanies keep coming.
Yeah.
I imagine you could just drive through, Levy Street, and ideas will hit you.
Yeah, visuals. It's just like scanning the it's like a scanner, right? The mind is like scanning everything, and I like this color that I'm seeing right now, right? And so it's gonna eventually come out, in something, right? Because it just, that's just the way doing it for so long, practicing it for so long, it's like your mind is just already there.
But does your mind still work musically that way? Do you hear tunes and say, "Oh, I want to play that"?
Oh yeah,
some
definitely.
version of that.
Definitely some version. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm terrible at humming, melodies that are not mine. Right? It's a challenge for me to do that. But
how about murals? Have you done murals?
I haven't done murals. I've always kind of stayed away from that, because I don't know. It just seems to me like it's something that I hate to think that at some point, at some time, it would be discarded and painted over. I just cannot get past that, right? I mean, so I guess this might sound wrong, but unless somebody is paying good money for it, they're gonna take care of it, right? So So I think that would probably be the only way.
But do you enjoy the murals that we have?
Yeah,
in
definitely.
Brownsville?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think Brownsville's getting there in that sense, right? I mean, I would actually like to see more artists from the outside coming in and making more murals here, contributing to our region, right?
Well, you're a bit different because a lot of locals got upset.
Yeah, I mean,
by the Californians coming in.
Yeah, I mean that happens, right? But I mean, I don't know.
Do you have? Is your art showing here? Is it in a gallery?
So my recent show was at Grey Duck in Austin. This was this past year in October, and so that was my last show that I actually had. I'm showing right now at currently in Laredo, but it's not really an art piece or artworks. It's more of it's a sticker show. So I had made little stickers of my number 7, and so they put stickers all over the place there, and so it's different, and I found out about it afterwards, right? Because I had a show at the Laredo Art Center. Actually, this shirt is from there. They made T-shirts there. I had
But what's the 7 for?
The 7 is something I stole from a sign maker, and so this gentleman, he used to live right across the street from the courthouse downtown, where you used to renew your license, and so he, this place was across the street from the parking lot, and so one day, I went by there and in hopes that I would find maybe scrap, pieces of signage that he just was going to throw away, because I at that time I was sort of adding these, found collaged, these pieces of wood onto my pieces. And so there, amongst the things that he was discarding, I found this little side, what turned out to be a side panel of sort of these little go-karts that are made out of wood, right? Another thing from the barrio when I was growing up, right? Making our own little cars and pushing them.
Sure.
So this man, and forgive me, I forgot his name, but he used to make these cars for the neighborhood kids, and so on that panel that I got, it had this side number on it, as like the NASCAR,
like a little race car.
Yeah, and it had the 7 on it, exactly like actually this is the picture of it.
It was very cool.
That's why it's all sort of textured. And so I had it for years, and then finally I thought, man, that number 7 is so beautiful, such an icon in my mind, right? And I thought, okay, pues that'll go well for your Instagram icon and stuff like that, right? And so I just kind of started using it, right? And I I need to actually find out his name, because I always tell the story, right? And I think that it's important to say that these sign makers had an impact, man. Beyond just making announcements, right? And
well, it's wonderful for you to give credit.
Yeah. And I wish I knew his name. I don't know if he's still around, actually, because he was up in age already.
Makes a cool T-shirt.
Yeah, it does. It makes a nice little icon. And
well, listen, thanks a lot for coming in. I've enjoyed talking to you, and I hope Cheech Marin can put you on the international map, so that it puts Brownsville more on the international map.
Yeah, my beloved time. Brownsville. Yeah,
your future is our future.
Yeah, exactly. This is my home, and I've always felt that I wanted to make art from here, right? I mean, I was able to travel quite a bit with being a musician and stuff, but I always felt that my art had to be made from here to be able to actually create something unique or something, right? And so I'm just grateful to be here, and I appreciate the invitation.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching this BSPA video. Go ahead and hit like and subscribe if you like what you see, and if you really like what you see, go ahead and go to our website, brosoperformingarts.org, and smash the donate button, and then we'll really like you too.